Okay, so today I want to talk about what Lincoln Riley had to say ahead of OU Texas week, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. I want to talk about Lincoln Riley and what he had to say related to OU Texas, and a couple of housekeeping things at the end of this video because I know that, your time is valuable, as is mine. So, check it. The first thing that we got to talk about is obviously horns down, right? Because we all expected, perhaps, maybe, kinda, Lincoln Riley would relax on it and say, hey guys, why don't you throw the horns down to the Big 12 officiating offense and the Big 12 officials in general and get us all the penalties. No, that's not what he said. He said, we're not going to do it just like we didn't do it in the Big 12 championship game because it's only causing, he didn't say because it's only causing problems. I'm saying it's because it's only causing problems, and that's what you expect, right? You expect Lincoln Riley to try to put his team in the best position to win the game and not so much get really interested in what a hand signal is going to do. So we're just going to have to do a lot of it when we see people on a regular basis and just, let them know what's going down. So I'm sure that there's a lot of folks throughout the entire stadium at the Cotton Bowl who already have tickets to this game, who just can't wait to see their favorite Texas fan and let them know what it is that we do north of the Red River. By the way, Big 12 champs, college football playoff, what's up? All right, next thing on the list is offensive line. Now, this is an area of concern for Oklahoma, and I'm going to hit on it pretty hard throughout the rest of the week, but the setup here is Oklahoma has used 5 different offensive lines throughout 5 games. And last week, played without its starting offensive tackles, and Lincoln Riley did not deliver good news about Eric Swinson and Adrian Ealy. He called them both highly questionable for the game against Texas, and they're dealing with more than just a scratch and a bump. Now, that can mean a lot of different things, but for our purposes, it means that Tyrese Robinson is probably going to play right tackle, R.J. Proctor's probably going to play left tackle, Bray Walker's probably going to play right guard, Marquise Hayes probably going to play left guard, and Creed Humphrey's going to be at the center, and they did not look good against Kansas with that lineup. They sorely miss having their starting offensive tackles. There's a reason why those guys were the first choices, and there's a reason as to why you wanted Tyrese Robinson playing guard and not tackle. To wit, Lincoln Riley said, we had no idea Tyrese Robinson could play right tackle. And knowing all of that, you got to think that he did pretty good. Just pretty good for Tyrese Robinson ain't great for Oklahoma. And you got to think that's an area of concern and an area of weakness that Todd Orlando is going to try to exploit. Also means that Creed Humphrey's going to have to continue to grow up in a hurry, man, because this is not an experienced offensive line, and you don't want to go in with an inexperienced offensive line by any stretch, but you would have thought that by this time Oklahoma would have had the kinks worked out of its starting 5 and had its starting 5 pretty well down pat, and that just has not been the case. So if we see the same lineup that we saw against Kansas, it'll be only the second time this season in 6 games that Oklahoma's played with the same set of starting offensive linemen against a defense that has been pretty stout, particularly against the run. Texas has only given up just a little bit more than 3 yards per carry. You got to be able to run the football against this Texas Longhorns team. Otherwise, they really are going to eat you alive when we're talking about the secondary, because they're not a bunch of chumps back there. They can actually play a little bit of football. Jalen Hurts is going to have one of his better games if Oklahoma's going to pull this thing out. Next thing on the list I wanted to talk about was Ehlinger and his maturity, because Lincoln Riley was asked about it. And he said what we've been saying, which is that it's night and day between how Sam Ehlinger was throwing the ball a couple years ago versus how he's throwing the ball now. As a matter of fact, Tom Herman said it best. Said, look, the games that he's had this year where he's been mediocre to just okay would have been considered otherworldly a year ago. He's just gotten that much better as a passer. And when I asked him about it on my radio show over the summer, Ehlinger was saying, yes, I understand. I've been pretty not good throwing the ball, but I've been working on it, and I expect to be better this year, and he has. As my buddy Ron said in the preview upload, he's just been really good at putting his wide receivers in positions to succeed. And when you look at the guys he has at his disposal, they're really good. Malcolm Epps is a giant. 6'6", 240. His catch radius is half the field. Brendan Eagles is a dude. Devin Duvernay's got 10-second 100-meter speed. Jake Smith can do anything you want him to do with a football. Roshan Johnson and Keontae Ingram have acquitted themselves outstandingly well at running back, and you know that Sam Ehlinger can run with the football, particularly in short yardage situations. Sam Ehlinger, well and truly a star, well and truly an outstanding quarterback, and I'm looking forward to the duel between him and Jalen Hurts. The next thing on the list was Ramondre Stevenson. This is a guy that fans want to see get more carries, and I don't think that Lincoln Riley or Jay Boulware don't want to see him get carries, but it's as he said, look, we trust them all, but you get your opportunity when you get your opportunity, right? And Ramondre Stevens has gotten some opportunities, and when he's gotten them, he's broken them off, right? He had over 100 yards rushing for, I think, the second straight game. I got to check that. But I know that he went for 61 yards against Kansas and was a big reason as to why Oklahoma ended up with over 200 yards rushing against Kansas. You expect the dude who is bigger than a bunch of the people chasing him to get more opportunities against Texas, especially if Kennedy Brooks does not really play, but I expect him to play. And I would expect to see Trey Sermon and maybe even TJ Pledger, who was suited up for the Kansas game. Next thing I wanted to talk about was Lincoln Riley and Jalen Hurts have one-on-ones on a pretty regular basis. This is actually pretty cool to hear. It's like we talk every day, whether it's by phone or in person, they are in sync. And I've always thought that that was very important between a play caller and a quarterback, because you have to know what each other are thinking. You have to have a really great drift-compatible relationship where you could jump into Gypsy Danger, pilot it against a level 5 kaiju and save the world. And I think that Lincoln Riley does the best job possible when getting into the space of his quarterback's heads and understanding what makes them tick, understanding why they like to run things the way they like to run things, and then giving them the keys to the car that is a Ferrari called the OU offense. And Jalen Hurts is still learning how to shift out of third, double clutch in the fifth. But I expect he'll get it figured out, and what a way for him to get it figured out against the first and perhaps maybe only ranked opponent against Texas. Yeah. Unless Baylor, if you don't go undefeated before Oklahoma plays you, we're going to have a problem. And by the way, Oklahoma State, just try to stay in the ball game, all right? I know you got the 2 losses. One to Texas, we can forgive. Texas Tech, what were you doing, all right? Next thing was David Ugwebu, who earned a starting job against Kansas. It's a guy that Lincoln Riley called flashing. Also, his wit and his ability to pick up what they're doing and not have busted plays has earned him more playing time. They played him at a couple of different positions. David Ugwebu, for those of you who don't know, true freshman, was a late addition to this 2019 class at outside linebacker. He's been outstanding. I've enjoyed watching him play. You can check out this channel in the archive and the interviews where I got to talk with him at length, both after he committed to Oklahoma and just before he got onto campus. Really insightful dude. Really enjoyed learning about him and his background. Can't wait to see him play more football. Next thing that I wanted to talk about was Lincoln Riley's notes on a pregame speech. Now, my man Gilman is a good dude, and I love him. He set this question up as best he could because he just wanted to know, is it important to give a good pregame speech? Is there something that could go awry if you don't give the same quality pregame speech against Kansas that you might give against Texas? To which Lincoln Riley says, I go with Coach Stoops on this, which is Newt Rockney's been dead for a long time. Point there is, he said what I think is important when talking about Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie, for those of you that don't know, is an outstanding novelist, wrote, among other things, a novel called Midnight's Children. You should go read it. But he said inspiration is nonsense. He doesn't sit down and get inspired to write. He shows up to work, and he writes. What comes out that day is what comes out that day. But you show up, and you do your job. And in the doing of your job, you achieve some measure of excellence. And then the book is finished. And then you edit the book, and then you send the book out into the world, and other people have good things to say about it. What you're doing is going back to work. Me, I upload, right? I write takes. I write monologues. That's what I do. I love what I do, but I am not inspired, per se, to do it. This is what I do. I've said that I make a video every day, so I make a video every day. Riley said much the same. It doesn't matter what you say before a game. You play how you play. Every play matters. All the points matter. This is what we do. And I support that, and I understand it. I also really love a pregame speech. I also get fired up with motivational speaking. I like to think that I can do it myself, but I also understand that if you don't think it affects you, then it doesn't affect you. If you do think it affects you, it does affect you. But as far as what it takes to do a job, show up, go to work. Other people will have nice things to say about you, or they might not. Point is, you got to keep going to work. Next thing I want to talk about was Trajan Bridges. You saw him play wide receiver against Kansas. You've seen him play DB against Texas Tech. Riley was asked, what does he play? He plays football. That's essentially his answer. He can play offense, he can play defense, he can play both, but he's been a dominant special teams player. They want to find a role for him. They're not going to force it. If he ends up playing more offense and more defense, fine. If he ends up playing both, fine. Point is, he's a talented football player, and they're going to find more ways to use him and find something that sticks for both them and him. And I support that. I really enjoy Trajan Bridges. I think he's an outstanding talent, and wherever he ends up playing football, I'm sure he's going to succeed. The last thing was he was really complimentary of Tom Herman. Tom Herman was really complimentary of him. I'm working on a monologue, I think, about the both of them. We'll see. But I really like that, which gets me to the housekeeping part of this. I know some people are spooked by the monologues because they're like, yo, man, I show up to see you just kind of rant and do your thing. And I'm like, I'm doing it. I'll continue to do that. But every now and again, I want to be able to write a thing and deliver a thing because I'm a writer. I got into this in large part to rant, right? And I love it. But also I want to use my skill set, which is that of a writer. That many of you know that that's my background. I wrote a book. It's called Let It Bang. You should go buy it. I was studying for my Ph.D. at Oklahoma State in English. I have a master's in professional writing from Oklahoma. I came up as a beat writer on the OU beat. I've written long form pieces. It's in my blood. It's what I like to do, but I'm good at this and I enjoy doing this. And I wanted to be able to put the two together. And at some point, I like to think that this channel could become our very own kind of sports show. Like you saw what I did in the Texas preview or in the recap of the AP Top 25 for Week 6. I delivered a monologue. I told some jokes. I'm the only person actually producing all this stuff and writing this stuff down, though my best friend Ron has a lot to do with the aesthetics of what you see and how you consume it from a visual standpoint. But I just want to be clear about what's going on. Don't want to spook anybody out. And if you watch to the end, you're exactly the kind of person that I'm talking to. If you didn't, that's on them, man. And you can help them out in the comments if you want to. If not, don't, because I'm not. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.